Hey, 6th grade, this is lesson 2, day 3, and we are going to be wrapping up our lesson on finding rates and unit rates from ratios. So let me tell you how this lesson is laid out. On page 14, which I'm on right now, and you should be on in your book, by the way, we are going to kind of work on 14, 15, and 16 together. All right, that's why it's called guided practice. Now on page 15, which I'm flipping to right now, this is independent practice. You're going to be trying this on your own, and this is like a big open-ended question on PSSAs. So you'll be trying this on your own, and then I'll go over it, and you'll be able to correct mistakes. So are you ready? Are you on page 14 and ready to go? Remember, as you do these videos, I want you to listen to my directions. If I tell you to pause the video and do a problem, please do that. If I'm writing something down, solving a problem, please do that with me. All right, so let's start out here. We're going to go through 14, 15, 16. We'll do some together, some I'll have you try on your own. Let's zoom in on 14. So we'll start with the directions. It says, talk through these problems as a class, then write your answers below. So 14 says, write the letter of the rate that matches each ratio. So notice over here, they're giving us ratios. And over here, they're giving us rates. And the reason I know their rates is because they're all, second number is a 1 in all of them. Remember that. So now, what I'm going to do is find one of them, and you can do this with me, and then you are going to find the other three. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first rate, which is $7.50 for 3 pounds, and I'm going to find the unit rate. Now remember how to do this. Whatever the second number is, in this case 3, you divide both numbers by that. So, and you could use a calculator for all this, by the way. So I'm just going to divide 750 by 3. And 3 by 3. Now, if you do that for the 750 divided by 3, you get 2.5. Now remember, 2.5 is $2.50. And 3 divided by 3, you don't need a calculator for that, I hope. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So the rate is $2.50 for 1 pound, which is C. So I'm going to write C right there. All right. Now your job is to do the rest of 14, these 3, and pause the video while you're doing it. And when you're done, restart it, and we'll see if you had it right. Go. Okay, let's see how you did. So the second one says 375 divided, for 5 pounds. So I'm going to divide each one by 5. It's whatever that second number is. And if you do 375 divided by 5, you get 75 cents. So it's 75 cents for 1 pound, which is A. All right, if you had it, good. If not, pause it and fix it. Next one, you have to divide by 4. And if you do $6 divided by 4, it comes out to 1.5, right? But I'm hoping you knew to make that $1.50. And 4 pounds divided by 4 is 1. So $1.50 for 1, which is D. All right. And the last one, $13.50 to 6 pounds, divide by 6. Divide by 6. And you get $2.25 for 1 pound, which is B. Now, if you have the rest of those right, you kick butt. Nice job. Let's go down to number 15. Now, this is more of a real-world situation, and I like this problem because it gives us a real nutrition facts label like you'll see if you go in the store and look on any product. So, let's read through it and we'll get you set up. So first it says, use the information on this nutrition label to write the unit rates described below. Show your work. So what we'll do is we'll look through it, we'll make sure you understand it, and we'll start off with one of them. Then we'll have you do the rest. By the way, since it just says show your work, it doesn't say explain. That just means that, you know, these lines down here, you think that you have to explain something, you could just show your work in those lines. So, first thing says, there are blank calories in 1 cracker. So let's take a look at our nutrition label here. Notice it says serving size 2 crackers. So when it tells you on a nutrition label that there's 50 calories, you have to look at the serving size. So there's 50 calories in 2 crackers. Now to figure out the calories in 1 cracker, what we're going to do is we're going to show our work down here, and make sure you're doing this with me. So we're going to start by writing the ratio. So it's 50 calories for 1 cracker. Okay, so you get that, or I'm sorry, I just messed up. 50 calories for 2 crackers. Okay, so get that written down. Now to show our work for it, remember to find the unit rate, or the rate, we have to divide by that second number. So you divide them by 2. And if you do that, 50 divided by 2 is 25 calories in 1 cracker. So that's our rate. So right here, there are 25 calories in 1 cracker. Now, you are going to use the rest of the information in here, it's all in this label, to answer this question and answer this question, and make sure you show your work for them down here. So pause the video, finish number 15, restart it when you're done. Go. All right, so let's see how you did. First thing, the second one says 1 cracker has a mass of blank grams. So remember, this nutrition label is all for 2 crackers. Now notice it tells us that those 2 crackers are 14 grams. So I'm going to write down it's 14 grams for 2 crackers. So we divide by 2 and we get 7 grams for 1 cracker. So did you have 7 for your second answer? And did you show your work? All right, remember, you can pause the video at any time to make corrections. Third one, there are blank fat calories in 1 cracker. So notice down here where they give you the regular calories, they also tell you the calories of those 50 that are from fat. So there are 15 fat calories in 2 crackers. So again, we're going to divide by 2, and we get 7.5 calories for 1 cracker. So there are 7.5 fat calories in 1 cracker. So did you get the rest of 15 right? If not, did you fix your mistake and learn from your mistake? All right, remember, pause the video if you need to fix that. Let's go to number 16. Now, number 16, we'll read it, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do together and what you were going to do. It says, Dawn earned $97.50 for 10 hours of work. Now, as I read that, my brain is thinking that's a ratio. Amy earned $120 for 12 hours of work. How much did each person earn per hour? How can you use this information to compare their earnings? So let's do this. Together, we're going to figure out what Dawn earned in 1 hour. Because this is what, notice it tells us, how much did each person earn per hour. But then I'm going to have you figure out what Amy earned per hour. And then we'll talk about answering that question at the end. So let's start out with Dawn. We're going to keep our work organized here. We'll kind of split these lines so the left side can be work and the right side can be our explanation. So over here, let's start with Dawn. So to figure out what Dawn made per hour, we start with writing her ratio. So she made $97.50 for 10 hours of work. Now, to figure out what she made per hour, we're just finding the rate. So we divide by 10. And that will get us the 1 hour. And do you remember the trick for dividing a decimal number by 10? You just move your decimal once to the left over there. So, or you could type it in a calculator, but I think it's easier. So, she earned $9. Now, if you move the decimal over, you get that extra 0. But since it's money, make sure you get rid of that 0. So she earned $9.75 per 1 hour. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to do the same thing, but this time for Amy. So start with Amy's ratio in the problem and figure out what she made per hour. Don't explain it yet. Just figure this out. Pause it, figure out Amy, restart it when you're done. Go. All right, so let's see how you did for Amy's. So Amy made $120 for 12 hours. So I'm just writing the ratio from the problem, and this time I divide by 12. And she made $10 for 1 hour. All right, so far we have what Dawn made per hour. I'm going to circle it there. And we had what Amy made per hour. I'm going to circle it there. But now is where you're going to explain. The question says, how can you use this information to compare their earnings? So what I want you to do is write, you could probably get this done in 2 to 3 sentences. How can you use, now when we're comparing their earnings, we want to know who made more, who made less. So talk about that, Dawn versus Amy, what they made, using their unit rate or their rates in a couple sentences right here. All right, so pause the video, write your sentences, and then restart it, and I'll write mine. Go. Okay, so now you should have your answer written a couple sentences. So I'm just going to write mine. Remember, yours does not have to look the same as mine. All right, so I'm going to say you can use the rates to compare their earnings because it's easier, or it's easy to see who made more or less when you see how much they made each hour. Okay, now I'm going to explain what I wrote. Remember, you don't have to copy my exact words. And you might have a different answer, that's okay. So here's all I'm saying. When you look at these amounts, $97.50 for 10 hours and $120 for 12 hours, it's hard to compare who made more and who made less because this is for 10 hours. But Amy worked for 12 hours, so of course she's going to make more. But when you get it down to the rate and they're both working for 1 hour, it's easy, since they're both working the same amount of time, to see who made more or who made less. So for the same amount of time, Dawn made a little bit less, $9.75, than Amy did. So that's all I'm trying to say here is use their rates to compare what they made, because it's easy to see who made more, who made less. That's all I was saying. All right, so now just make sure whatever you wrote is going to be fine, but a couple sentences explaining what you said. All right, so now we're on to 15. 15 is the independent practice. So we're going to go through each one, and I'm just going to give you some tips, but then you're going to do this on your own. And remember, it's okay if you make mistakes, and if you're not sure, I want you to try anyway. And then we'll go through, you'll watch the video and go through it and correct mistakes. So in number 17, it says a recipe uses 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar. All right, so you are going to do part A. They're going to ask you to basically do something here, but you're going to have to find the unit rate. Now, just to remember what a unit rate is. If a rate is, let's say, $5 for 1 hour, remember that's a rate because the bottom number is a 1, right? The unit rate would just be $5. The unit rate is the number that goes with the rate. So just remember that. All right. So you're going to do part A. And you're going to have to be careful when you're doing these that you're following the directions. Then you're going to do part B, your ratio of cups of sugar to cups of flour as a fraction. Okay? And then you're going to do part C. Now, the one thing I will say for part C is they're going to ask you to do something and they say show your work. Okay, so whenever it says show your work, you have to show whatever math you did. It doesn't say explain, so you don't have to write any sentences to explain. In part D, you're going to be showing your work as well, even though they didn't say that. But in part E, whenever it says to compare your answers to C and D, Now remember, C and D are these two parts here. You're comparing them, and explain how the two rates are related. When you compare something, you're kind of telling how they're alike. So that's where you're going to need a couple sentences. So let's say 2 to 3 sentences. So that's the only one where you have to explain. The rest you're showing your work. All right? So I want you to just, it's going to take you about 5 minutes or so to do this on your own, but pause the video while you're doing it, and when you're done, play the video and I'll go through my answers. All right? Go ahead, kick some butt. Go. All right, so are you done with number 17? You did all parts A through E. All right, now it's my turn to go through it. So, up here, I remember the recipe uses 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar. All right, A says write the ratio of cups of flour to cups of sugar. So it's flour to sugar. So that's easy. It's the order it was written. It's 3 cups of flour to 2 cups of sugar. And it said write it as a fraction, so that's why I wrote it like that. Now, the second part says divide the first quantity by the second quantity to find the related rate. So here's what they're saying. Divide the first quantity, which is 3, by the second. Remember, the first one is 3, the second one is 2, to find the related rate. And that equals 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. So it's 1.5 cups to 1 cup. So basically all they did is they took 3 to 2, they divided by 2 to get 1.5 to 1, which I wrote down here. All right, so that's all they did. All right, remember, you can pause at any time to make corrections. All right, and then it says the unit rate is, remember, the unit rate is the number that's with the 1. 1.5, and I'm just going to say cups. All right, so that's part A. Now part B is going to do almost the same thing. Now in part B it says, now write a ratio of the cups of sugar to the cups of flour as a fraction. So now they're switching the order because the cups of sugar is the 2 and the cups of flour is the 3. So this one you should have 2 to 3 instead of 3 to 2. And it says divide the first quantity by the second quantity. So the first quantity is 2, and we're dividing that by 3. Okay? And I'm going to use my calculator. 2 divided by 3 is, ooh, it's a repeating decimal. So it's going to be 0.66666. Did you know to write that as 0.6 repeating? If not, you can fix that if you didn't know how to write that. So it's 0.6 repeating cups to 1 cup. Now remember, all they did was this. 2 to 3. They divided by 3. So 2 divided by 3 was that 0.6 repeating. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. So that's where I got that from. All right? So remember, pause it. If you messed up, no big deal. You'll learn from it. All right, so now the unit rate is 0.6 repeating. All right. Now, part C says, imagine that the recipe is doubled and that 4 cups of sugar are used. Use the unit rate in A to find out how much flour is needed if a recipe is made with 4 cups of sugar. Show your work. So it says use the unit rate in A. So remember, the unit rate in A was 1.5 cups. Now remember that 1.5 cups is how much flour is needed for 1 cup. So remember that. That's for 1 cup. So if I were to then, the recipe is doubled. Remember, doubled just means to multiply it by 2, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the unit rate real quick. So the unit rate, remember, was 1.5 cups, and that was flour. And that was for 1 cup of sugar. Now, if we are going to go so that 4 cups of sugar are used, what I have to do here is I'm going to have to multiply by 4. And if I do that, 1 cup times 4 is 4, and 1.5 cups times 4 is 6. So the question says to find how much flour is needed if the recipe is made with 4 cups. So you would need 6 cups of flour for 4 cups of sugar. Okay? Now remember how they said the recipe was doubled, and you're probably wondering, why did we multiply by 4 then? Well, let me go back. I'm just going to show you up at the top. The original recipe was 3 cups. Let me erase some of this mess here. The original recipe was 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar. That was what was doubled. So if you multiplied those by 2, because doubled means to multiply by 2, you would get 6 cups of flour to 4 cups of sugar. You would get the same answer. But since we used the unit rate, we multiplied by 4. All right? So now we're going to go down to part D. Imagine that 6 cups of flour are used to make the recipe. Use the unit rate in B to find out how much sugar is needed if the recipe is made with 6 cups of flour. So in this one, remember the unit rate was 0.6 repeating over 1 cup, right? But this time it says, and let me make sure I have that. That was cups of flour or cups of sugar. So this is sugar. And this is flour. Okay? So imagine that 6 cups of flour are going to be made. So if I multiply each of these by 6, because now 6 cups of flour are going to be used, I would get 6 cups of flour and if I do the 0.6 repeating, now I still have the 0.6 repeating on my calculator, so I'm not going to clear it. I'm just going to do times 6, and I get 4 cups of sugar. So for 6 cups of flour, we use 4 cups of sugar. Now notice, I don't know if you noticed in part D and part B, they kind of look similar. So part E says compare your answers to C and D and explain how the 2 rates are related. So what I'm going to say here is, notice they're both the same answer except the ratios are flipped. All right? So that's all I'm going to write. I'm going to say my answers to parts C and D are the same, except the numbers are flipped. So it says, how are the 2 unit rates related? Well, they're kind of the same. I'm going to say in both answers, you will need 4 cups of sugar. All right, so there's my 2 to 3 sentences. All right, so if you made any mistakes, make sure you pause it and restart it and fix those. Other than that, you're good to go, guys. All right, thanks for watching.